This is a bit of a weird one. So, first of all, I'm just going to say, for those of you interested in my Resident Evil video, recording is going smoothly, and it should be out by the time Requiem releases. But, since I know most of you are here for my Payday content at the moment, I might as well continue with the series that a lot of you found me with, and that's improving each of the heists in Payday 3. Initially, I was only going to cover the 8 launch heists, but after giving it some thought, there are a few things in each of the subsequent heists I'd like to touch on as well, all the way up to the present with Shopping Spree. But before I can get into those, there's a few things I need to cover first, which I'll be doing in this video. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the changes to favors I'd make to the original 8 heists, as well as the first 2 legacy heists, Turbid Station and Cook-Off. It's a bit more difficult to really say what to change with them in their own dedicated videos, without each one being less than 5 minutes long, considering they already had good framework being legacy heists, but I thought they'd fit better when I'm addressing all of the favors I didn't really talk about in my previous videos. This is kind of going to be a lightning round, since more often than not, when I didn't have anything to say about the favors in my videos, it's because they didn't need to be talked about much at all. Take the favors from No Rest for the Wicked as an example. All of these work relatively well and serve an intended purpose to bring them with you to make subsequent runs easier or slightly different. Although I do think that the additional thermite doesn't make much of a difference, and if we're taking my previous videos to what changes occur, then I'd simply make this either something like Golden Shark's favor of stashing the drill parts on site, or just guaranteeing that you use thermite on the vault roof instead of just being more of something you already get. Road Rage's favors are similar, since almost all of these are fine as is, although I don't find much use out of the more explosives favor personally. Maybe change this to have some of the sabotageable things in the heist already set up for you, so you don't need to do as much busy work while moving the armored transport. I'll be skipping Dirty Ice since I already went over the favor changes I'd make in that video, as well as Under the Surface and Touch the Sky for the same reason. Rock the Cradle, on the other hand, well, a lot of you brought up the fact that the crypto wallet doesn't actually immediately drain if you bring the favor. But let's also consider the fact that if you're going loud in the first place, this favor should probably be reworked a bit to make it so that the crypto wallet is decrypted faster if you grab it after going loud or something similar. Also, a general change would just be to make it so that you can still do the power box puzzle to open the server room in loud instead of needing the accountant to open it for you, considering you can run away at any point. Speaking of the accountant opening something, another favor that's rather useless in the grand scheme of things is the vault code access favor. This favor makes the vault code written in the bathroom stall, which doesn't help since you can already find the code in one singular room, which also happens to be right next to the vault room. Granted, you need to figure out which of the number combinations is correct, but considering it's literally right next door to the vault, that's not a challenge at all. So an alternative that one of you proposed in the comments instead, that I fully agree with, is to make what's written on the bathroom stall the accountant's phone number for when you're doing stealth while masked. This way, you could find his number, have Shade call him, and then use him to open the server room more forcefully than when you're not masked up. Moving on to Golden Shark, I already talked about the elevator favor needing a bit of tweaking to make it feel more useful than not, but the other favors I want to bring up really quickly because they're a bit one-sided in favor of stealth. There's the open teller door favor, which is only really useful when you're looking for the specific name on the ground floor, elevator access, which I've already spoken at length about, and the cafe celebration, where all but about 2 NPCs on the upper floor are now in this singular side room, which again is only really useful in stealth to keep them in this room. Maybe a use case for loud could be made where you funnel them all in that room, but that's a very specific use case regardless, on top of all the NPCs funneling down the stairs anyway, because there's no other way out of the top floor. I also don't know exactly how useful this is in the grand scheme of stealth regardless, since if you're playing your cards right, you're not usually masked by the time you get up here anyway, so you wouldn't need to avoid NPCs. So if this were to be replaced, I'd probably say to stash explosives somewhere a la First World Bank, topical I know, to explode the large double doors leading to the vault room, therefore skipping the need to hack them open at the cost of immediately starting the assault wave, because, it's a giant explosion. Lastly, for the base game heist favors, we have 99 boxes. The thermite drop and prototype bag favors are fine as is, and they don't need changing, and additional explosives I feel the same about here as I do with Road Rage. The open container favor, on the other hand, is completely worthless. The description of it says that it has a chance to open one of the containers with the frozen tech you're primarily here for, but in execution, it only ever opens a container that doesn't have a lock on it already, meaning you're only ever skipping one press of the F key when you use this. I made sure to test this thoroughly and see if it ever opens up any of the actually locked containers by resetting the heist at least 15 times in solo mode, and not once did it ever open one of the locked containers with the refrigerated tech. So either this can be changed to actually open one of the locked containers, making it feel useful when you activate it, or it can just be replaced by having the liquid nitrogen already in your truck so you don't need to go through that rigmarole in the warehouse and can just get straight to looting. Even for a lightning round, that took longer than I expected. But now that the talking of the favors is out of the way, it's time to move on to the first 2 legacy heists of Payday 3, Turbid Station and Cook-Off. Why did I put these together? Well, it's because I think they complement each other. Turbid Station is the only pure stealth heist in the game at the time of this video, and Cook-Off is a heist you can only do in loud like Road Rage, hence why I say they complement each other. They're like two halves of a whole, except not really, considering how different they both are. Starting with Turbid Station, this is a remake of the Payday 2 Murky Station heist, where you're going into a closed train yard to specifically find 2 pieces of satellite technology hidden within 4 of the 8 train cars, owned by Quantz Technology. In order to open these train cars up, you have to interact with these panels on the side to open them, but to actually get the loot, each of the train cars has a different security measure in place. One is locked behind a red keycard, which you can find on this rack of 3 keycards. The second is locked behind a QR code tied to this NPC with a reflective vest. The third is locked behind an SSD, and a fourth is locked behind probably the most divisive of these methods, a remotely opened door. All of the keys to open these are found on site, and you can even get a bit of a hint on what's where with this whiteboard in the train yard itself. The trickiest one without a doubt is getting the remote door open, but there's 2 ways to do it. Either you can grab this Quantz guy to open the retinal scanner downstairs, letting you actually open the door, or bypass that entirely by removing him and then engaging in the stand in circles minigame. Or at least that's how it will be for a little while longer, since soon that'll be replaced with the timer modus from Touch the Sky. Regardless, once you either do that minigame or get into the room by just unlocking it, you don't need to worry about opening the door again, since you can now just grab what's in there freely. There's 20 bags in total on this heist though, so if you want the all bags bonus, you'll be spending quite a bit of time going forward and back again, forward, back again, and go forward and back, then put 1 foot forward to get the bags to one of 2 escapes. A dinghy near the waterfront, or the van you entered in the heist with, which is objectively the worst of the 2 if you didn't bring the zipline bag, which guarantees that escape anyway, otherwise the zipline bag isn't all that useful. Now that the summary is out of the way, I feel like I should talk about the changes this heist could use, starting with the favors. Most of these are fine for the most part, especially since they complement the stealthy aspect of this heist, but I never find any use out of having more lures on the heist, since you're more often than not putting yourself in a compromising position just to use them, even if there's more of them. So instead of this, I just make this favor to have one of the 4 Quantz train cars already opened for you, skipping the need to interact with the yellow box outside, and maybe having the key you need to access the loot be circumvented as well, which I know a lot of people would love to have a chance to just skip opening the remote door with that. Onto the actual heist itself, there's actually not much I'd change here, because again, this one has a pretty reasonable framework, considering it comes directly from Payday 2. Therefore, this is one of the much more randomized and varied heists in the game. Of the 8 train cars in the yard, 4 of them are randomly selected to be your objective trains, and of those 4, you don't know which one has which key required. Plus, it's designed rather well to complement Payday 3 having more movement options than Payday 2 in a multitude of areas, doubly so when you have the zipline bag and can use these upper railings for even more verticality. Really, if there was anything I would change in Turbid Station, I'd ask to make the boat exit happen much more often, since it feels like I never get it, which just makes me bring the zipline bag anyway, because man, moving bags up and down these stairs sucks without the zipline. At least the boat is pretty much next to the train yard anyway, so you don't need to move so far every single time. Now, the one thing I'm going to propose might sound a bit crazy, but I do think it would be interesting if there was a way you could do this heist in loud as well as stealth. Now, granted, you would probably need to change a few things about it to do that, like making a new loud music track for this heist, and having a way to get the mandatory bags not be wiped once the alarm sounds. We don't want there to be another crypto wallet, but I can see the potential with this heist going loud. The obstacles you use for breaking line of sight could just as easily be used as cover points instead, but if a loud variant of this heist isn't going to be added, I'm not going to lose sleep over it either. Moving on to the other half of the legacy heists, we have Cook-Off, ported pretty much directly from Payday 2, save for some environmental changes outside of the house itself. Your goal in this heist is to simply cook as much meth as you can, getting more rewards for how pure it is when you cook it, but losing value if it cooks too long and burns. In order to do that, you take 3 ingredients and put them in the order Shade tells you, assuming she doesn't mess up the order. The location you can cook the meth in is randomly determined by which floor the meth lab spawns on, with the safest of these usually being the basement, but even if it spawns on the ground or upper floor, it's not impossible to survive. It's just more difficult, because those areas have usually more open spots for you to get peppered with shots, but on the same token, you can just as easily return fire on the SWATs, and depending on the circumstances, you can even get the sabotage squad from the ground floor without ever leaving the house if you're lucky. There's enough ingredients for 7 batches of meth in the map when you enter, and you can call in 3 more batches of each via helicopter, totaling 19 bags. In fact, Cook-Off is the source of the only hardcore challenge in the game, where you're tasked with getting all 19 bags cooked pure, that means blue basically, in overkill difficulty, where you're rewarded with a blue crystal charm for your weapons. Cook-Off is effectively a holdout heist, where you're sitting in the house cooking as much as you can, seeing how long you can last until you finally need to get out of the house and just call it quits, or accidentally blow up the lab by putting the wrong ingredient in. Everybody's done it once, there's no need to feel bad about it. Unless you do it repeatedly, in which case, what's wrong with you? In terms of what I change, again, there's not really anything I'd actually change here since it's a heist where, again, you're pretty much seeing how long you can last in a prolonged assault that only ever ends when you decide to leave or you run out of meth to cook. The favors are fine, the layout is simple but effective, and the difficulty is supposed to be high here. After all, this heist typically takes a bit under an hour to get all the pure bags cooked, and the difficulty is usually determined by your own skills. Now, using my suggestion for a loud Turbid Station, would I say the same for a stealth version of Cook-Off? No. If Cook-Off had a stealth variant, getting all 19 bags would still be a challenge, granted, but it would be much more of a test of your patience instead of testing your build crafting and aiming. Now, I hope you can see why I combined all three of these into the same video. There's not really anything I can say to add or change to these since they're really pretty fine as they are, aside from one or two minor changes in regards to the favors for Turbid Station. Next up, in terms of Payday videos though, I actually have a heist that I'll have things to say about since I'll be starting on the Bad Apple heists. Until then, thanks for watching, and I hope you take care.